What's up, guys? It's your boy Chef Dave back with another cooking video. This is actually take 2 because I have already started the process and I must have somehow hit the damn not record button or stop button or something, or I just didn't hit the record all the way. Not the end of the world. You didn't miss much. What I was talking about is today we are going to do a dish, old school Portuguese dish, kind of an inspiration of that dish, not that dish exactly, called Pão com Sardinha, or bread and sardines. This bread is also made with chorizo, or chorizo, which is my favorite actually. But this is another version of that. So in the morning we started a dough. You'll get to see that after this. That's here. It's a very traditional dish, very popular in Portugal. It's that kind of like, I always say nobody eats more than the Portuguese, and I'm telling you it's a fact. Because this dish or this snack is meant to be eaten in the late afternoon. So you have lunch from like 12:30 to 2:30, and then you have an afternoon snack, which can be anything, in meat and cheese or bread and butter. It can be anything, but because you only usually eat dinner at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, so they usually need something to eat after work. This is very much kind of like a on the way home, or you just got off of work or something like that kind of meal, or piece of a meal. It's gotten so popular, even so that, in my little hometown of Casais de Garridos, there is the local baker. He kind of covers the 2 or 3 small towns, in the area. And at, 4 in the afternoon, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, he drives around, or she actually, the husband and wife team, they drive around and, they hit up certain spots, and you go and you grab your pão chouriça, pão sardinha, or just your afternoon bread for your dinner. If you didn't get bread in the morning, or sometimes you get bread in the morning and in the afternoon, bread is like life in Portugal. It's carb loading is a real thing. But so we're gonna do a quick version of that. We started the dough early on this morning, about 2.5 hours ago. All right, to make our dough, we've got 1 quart of high gluten flour. We'll put that in the bowl. Very simply. Tap it. To the flour, we're going to add, now this is an instant yeast. This is actually leftover from the pandemic yeast shortage. But instant yeast and active yeast are pretty close to identical. So there's about a tablespoon of yeast in there. I'm going to give this just a little extra, tablespoon and a half. If you have really nice fresh active dry yeast or instant yeast, 1 tablespoon should do it. This has been in the freezer for a little bit, so I'm going to add just a touch extra to this. Now what I was saying was active dry and instant yeast are kind of the same. Active, you kind of, sometimes you want to prefer to put it in the water to let it bloom first, where instant yeast you can put right into the flour and it dissolves kind of instantaneously. So we're going to put about a tablespoon of salt into this as well. To this, we're going to put, I always have a sourdough starter, and I love this taste of sourdough. And now, since this is a quick bread, it tends not to have quite as much depth of flavor. So adding a little bit of sourdough really kind of helps. It just adds like a nice depth of flavor. Then we put about, I will say 3, maybe 4 tablespoons of nice olive oil. And then we add our water. Water, I use room temperature to warm water. For a case like this, we're going to put about a cup in there to start. About a cup and a half, actually. And then we can make the adjustment. If it needs more, we can add a little bit more once it starts mixing. But about a cup and a half should do it. Put our hook on, drop it down, lock it up, and begin the spin. So a couple of notes on this. You want, I start on low speed and then I pick it up a little bit. We're not looking for this to be super dry, like a stiff dough. Really want it to be a little bit tacky. That being said, I think we're just about there as far as our tackiness. I might add just a touch of flour. Because I may have put that last splash of water, might have been a little too much. But we're going to let the gluten develop. So we're going to end up needing this about 8 minutes. All right, that's it. Okay, we got decent gluten development. Knock this down. You can see by that stretch. The gluten will continue to develop as well as it sits. So you don't have to worry about that. And we're not looking for, this isn't a loaf, so you're not looking for like the craziest of development, but you do want it obviously to be there for the structure of the dough or the bread. So now we got a little bit, just a tiny bit of water in there, just a tiny bit instead of oil. And we're going to use our bowl scraper. And we're going to drop our dough in there. And we'll wet our hands. We'll wet our hands and just make sure the dough's loose and easily manipulated. And that's it. So now we're going to cover this up. I'm going to place this in the oven just to maintain the warmth of the dough and make sure there's no breeze or anything like that. It's going to cool it down and dry it off. But that's it. We're going to let this sit probably about half hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll give it a little bit of a fold to continue developing that gluten. And then just take about 90 minutes or so to reach about double volume. So here we have the dough. It's been about 45 minutes or so. It's not going to take much longer, actually. This yeast is a little more active than I thought. But we want to get the air out like that. Wet hands, okay? And give it a little turn like that. Oops. Okay. Again, you're just rebuilding the gluten structure. Nothing crazy. I like to do it a couple times, like that, and then also just like that, okay? And that's it. We're gonna let this rest for another 30 minutes and go from there. So essentially what I've done up to this point, I've just kind of deflated the dough a little bit with my wet hands, and then scraped it out into kind of the oiled cast iron here. And now we're gonna let this sit for probably about a half hour or so. We're gonna put a little more oil on top. I like a good amount of oil for this dish. So we're gonna let this sit for, well, actually we're gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna put our toppings on it, and then go from there. So guys, I apologize. I mean, something must be up with my phone. Either I'm clicking the wrong thing, or I don't know, who knows. So I have to go back to the video and see where we left off, but the video stopped mid doing this. So basically what I, in a nutshell, what we did is, after letting it sit for about 10 minutes or so, we took potatoes that have been cooked with like garlic and stuff, just slow roasted sort of, cut them up, and we've actually pressed them into the dough, right? Then we took the brioche boneless skinless sardines with tomato. With our hands, we kind of just broke them up a little bit, and then just also kind of pressed them a little bit into the dough. And then drizzled everything with the, because we don't want to waste, so we drizzled everything with the tomato sauce that's in the tin itself. And then we put sliced onions over the top. Now you can do as much or as little onion as you wish. I really think the onion is going to push this forward and really make it awesome. So I put quite a bit of onion on top because it's going to get kind of blasted. It's going to bake for a little while, so it's going to get blasted with heat. And then, really kind of roast those onions. Some of them will stay a little softer, which is fine. But I think it'll be really good between the onion and the potato and the tomato and the sardine. It'll be really, really a beautiful combination. But so anyway, again, you can put as little potato, as much potato, as little onion, as much onion as you want. This is really kind of make it your way. But we're gonna, once we have this set up like this, we're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes or so. It is quite active, so you don't have to let it sit too long. We're just waiting for the last couple minutes of the oven to preheat. So that should be about 10-15 minutes. So we're going to give this about 10-15 minutes and then pop her in the oven. So there you have it. It just came out of the oven. And whenever breads like this come out of the oven, we always put a very generous amount of olive oil over the top. It soaks into the bread, leaves it really nice and moist and beautiful. But that's your Pao De Sardinha. You can cut this into slices, pieces. Very simple. It cooked for about, I have a breadstone in the oven preheated to 500. Now this oven tends to run a little bit low, so you really got to know your oven personally. But this oven runs a little bit low. Even at 500, it probably maxes out at about 400, 425. High temps are a must when it comes to bread, in my opinion. So for this one, I put it on directly on the breadstone for 15 minutes, and then I switch it up to the top shelf, so those onions start to crisp up and burn a little bit like I want, for another 15 to 20 minutes. And that's it. Pretty simple. We'll take some pictures of some dishes we do with them, but like I said, you can eat it just like this out of hand. You can serve it with a little salad if you wanted to make a full proper lunch. You can fry up an egg, put it over the top with some greens. They'll be delicious. This is what we might do later, but that's it. Guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thanks, guys. Peace.